Hello. So I'm going to go over making a slab with you. Now, you may be working at home, you may be working in a studio, I'm not sure where you are. Now, I'm in my studio here in Hallowell, at Hallowell Clayworks, and I have these tables that we made, and they are made, this is birch plyboard. It is cabinet grade birch plyboard that I work on, and it's kind of expensive to have this finished, but it is really nice. It's a great surface. It is absorbent, and I love it. But if you're working at home, which probably right now during this time you are, another thing you can use is canvas. So if you have any kind of canvas or sometimes jean material, some kind of heavy duty material, that's another surface that you can work on. I also, here in my trusty closet, use sheetrock sometimes. So I use this a lot when I'm throwing, and I use it to put my work on. What it does, because sheetrock is absorbent, and so you can also set this down on your kitchen table if that's where you're working, and you can create things right there on something like that. Now I've also, you can see that I've duct taped the edges because I've cut this. This is just kind of leftover construction material, and a lot of times you don't have to go out and purchase it. You may have some in your garage. So this is a great material to use. So you've got that kind of brown side and the white side. I use both interchangeably. So, but you can cut it. So you want to be really careful about how much you drag your tools across it once it also will get kind of wet. They all will, depending on the wetness or the dryness of your clay. So those are some great surfaces too. So if you are also working with something that can slide around the table when you're working, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my hip and I'll kind of press it up against my table. So say you're at the kitchen table, kind of set that there, and then you can work on this towards yourself without it sliding around too much. If you're flinging it that way, there's not much you can do unless you have somebody holding the other side, which is an option. Maybe your kids are home, so it might be the thing that you do. So I'm going to go over making a slab, and I'll do a couple, I don't know what I'll do. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to take this piece of clay right now. So I just kind of wedged it a little bit, and if you haven't watched the little wedging video, you might want to. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to flatten it, and I'm going to just lean on that. Essentially, if I'm looking to make a slab that is, say I want it to be about this big, then I want to set myself up for that. So I want to have enough clay. So about that much, I'm going to say 3 pounds will probably get me where I'm going. And I have no idea how much this is, but I'm going to say this is probably about 3 pounds. So I'm going to start leaning on it and pushing it out so that I get kind of a rectangle shape. See how I'm pushing it that way? I'm also using the palm of my hand so that I'm not digging in with my fingers. I don't want to create a bunch of divots. I want to keep it as flat as I possibly can. And I start to get this kind of rectangle shape. Now, I'm going to pick this up. Now, this is why you want to be working on a surface that is a little porous and not your kitchen counters or a plastic sheet or anything like that. You really want something that can absorb some of the moisture in the clay so that you can pick it up and move it. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll kind of move around the table. That will help my slab dry out. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to tap it on the table, tap it this way, tap it this way. This is also going to help those edges not get too weird. So flatten that out. All right. So I'm going to start and I'm going to throw this slab. Now when I pick this up, I'm going to pick it up again. I'm not digging into it. I'm going to lean across the table and I'm going to pull this towards me. Now when I do this, I want to catch the back edge of this at the right angle so that it sort of slides forward. Right? Now if I'm working on the sheetrock, I kind of have to do this sideways with my hip here so it doesn't slide at me. So you can see the angle sideways. I also have one foot in front of the other because I kind of do this rocking thing. Just pull it out. Hear that? a slamming, like let's see, do you hear the difference? Oh, do you see what happened to it? It stretched a little bit. So if you hear, well, I don't know if that was any different, but so a slapping sound is going to be less stretchy. So you see what's happening as I catch that back edge. And I want to be careful when I pick it up. Again, I don't want to dig into it. See how it popped up like that? So I want to be careful. So I can also throw it this way. And I'll go to about there. Now, it's uneven. Most definitely, there's some unevenness here. But you see how I'm picking it up and I'm going to reposition a little bit? There's some higher spots, there's some lower spots. The lower spots, I'm just going to take a little chunk from the outside and I'm just going to press that into the lower spot and level it out. The thicker pieces, just going to kind of pound them a little bit with that flat palm. And I went to, it's about 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little bit more. I don't want to go any lower than that. If you have yardsticks at home, this is very handy to have this. So I can keep this pretty even with the rolling pin. Not everybody's gonna have one of these heavy duty, it's just like from the baking store. So, and I'm gonna roll on that. I'll roll towards me. Now what I don't do is I don't roll back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I don't roll the slab out like that because clay has memory and it really is not gonna like that kind of motion. So that was really just a fine tune with the rolling pin. Now I'm gonna pick this up and I'm gonna move it over. I'm also gonna clean my surface. So just gonna push that over there. Now I wanna remind you that clay dust is not something you wanna be breathing. So, see that? That won't take very long to dry, but now I can attend to this side of the slab. This is a drywall scraper. I use this an awful lot of scraper. I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's for putting drywall on. I'm gonna clean it off. Now, you don't want to clean it with your fingers. Trust me. You do not want to clean it with your fingers, but you don't want any dry, crusty clay on there because that's gonna leave lines in your slab. So you can use this. You can use the side of a credit card. You can use lots of things. Now, if you're at home, again, you're probably not gonna have this right now, but you might have something like it. All right, so that smooths a lot of stuff off. And then I'm gonna pick this up, and I'm gonna flip this one over. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna let it stiffen up just a little bit. You can, it's really, really soft. So if I try to work with it now, it's gonna be kind of, what's the word, messy, organic. It's gonna be a little floppy, and that's not what I want to do this project. So we wanna let it set up so that it's kind of a soft leather hard. Hard to explain what that is without you actually touching it, but just trust me, when you first get it, you wanna let it sit for a little bit and dry. Not too long though, so be careful.